Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and my son last night, he has asked me if we can go and start the TV show The Office. You can get it on Netflix now, and he's asked me if we can go from the very beginning and watch it all the way through. I don't think I've ever seen every episode of The Office. I've always heard that the British version of The Office is even funnier than the American version, and so I may have to watch that one after this one. But we got 2 episodes deep into it, and it's the one where they're trying to do racial sensitivity training, and he makes everybody get a sticky note and writes a race on it and puts it on their forehead. It's the most ridiculous scene I've ever seen. And the sad part about it is I'm sure that many people listening to my voice have bosses that are just as stupid as the guy on that show, and I think that's what makes it hilarious. I've always heard that anything funny or a good joke has to be based in some truth to be really funny for people to identify with it. And I think that there are millions of people who have bosses who are way too stupid to hold their positions all across the world. I know I've had them before. Let's start this off, excuse me, with Sergeant Obi-Wan. This is he tweeted this out. Apparently, Tim Draper and Alex Mashinsky are at were at the Singapore at World Blockchain Summit. And this is an article that was written on them. Draper. Well, I'll actually read. I'll go to the actual quotes so I don't mess them up. But Mashinsky is the guy. I think he's the guy that runs. Here he is. Alex Mashinsky is the guy that runs Celsius Network, I believe. Let me see if I can get us down a little bit further here. Let's see. Founder and CEO of the Celsius Network. But first, they've got a quote here from Tim Draper. This is the beginning of one of the amazing sociological changes in the history of the world. We are in for one of the biggest transformation moments, and it is happening in the next 5 to 10 years. If you are issuing an ICO, this is your moment. This is the $1 trillion and $10 trillion industries that you are going after. And then, as it lower in the article, if I can get to his, Alex Mashinsky also has a quote in here. Well, I must have passed it. Let's see. Yeah, this is from Alex Mashinsky. He says, cryptocurrencies, blockchain, and decentralization is a revolution. It is the 4th system that is here to replace what's not working for 7 billion people that cannot rise to the middle class. I think that he says that well, because I think that the people that have discovered blockchain and digital assets, and more specifically XRP, will be blasted off out of the middle class, if you're in it now, into a new uber wealthy class. I've always believed that. I believe that that's what this really represents. I believe that people that don't discover digital assets in a timely manner might be kicked down to a new poor class, because I think simultaneously with all of this might very well be the destruction of much of fiat. I wouldn't want to be holding too many US dollars when this thing goes down. I'll put it that way. Okay, let me go on to the next thing here. This was a tweet from, I just lost, let me see, no, Go Crypto, at GCA_Go Crypto sent me this. Now, for those of you that don't know, Peter Schiff and Anthony Pompliano had a debate, and it was a Bitcoin versus gold debate. Peter Schiff's doing this all over the place. Well, what popped up out of this, to me, is it's pretty obvious that Peter Schiff, it's not that he has a problem with all digital assets, or if he did, he is starting to change his mind. There's many of us, including myself, who have piled in and made Peter Schiff aware in some of his tweet threads of XRP. So I know he knows about XRP now. He's never said anything specifically negative about XRP to my knowledge. But listen to a couple of things that he said in the debate with Anthony Pompliano. First, he says, I cannot think of an example throughout history where any innovation, where the first one was the best one. Why wouldn't someone come up with something better, that's quicker, that's more reliable, that's more secure than Bitcoin? And then they added XRP. But it's almost like he knows, and he now knows that this is his best argument against Anthony Pompliano. Now, we have all tried to talk sense, because I like Anthony Pompliano. I think that Anthony Pompliano is like a lot of these guys that are Bitcoin guys. This is the baton they picked up originally, and they're having to run with it, and they're probably hoping that they can run with it long enough for it to get to some of these high numbers like 100K or 200K. But I think that all of them, their greatest fear has always been exactly what Peter Schiff is saying here. XRP is better, quicker, more reliable, more secure, faster. I mean, it is all of that. And I think that's always been their greatest fear, is that this would happen. Now, let's look at what was said, what was also said. I got this from Michelle Vandenberg, and this was the other part of this that Peter Schiff said. The first telephone was not the best telephone. It was improved upon. If cryptocurrency is to work, why would we assume that Bitcoin is the one to succeed? Why would the first attempt be the best attempt? Better, quicker, secure, reliable. I think Peter Schiff may be in the midst of a little bit of a transition. He might be an XRP holder. That's what you might be looking at here. He may have really looked into this at this point, and he may. One thing, listen, as long as Peter Schiff has been talking down about digital assets, more specifically Bitcoin, I've never said that Peter Schiff was not smart. What I've said over and over and over is that Peter Schiff needs to realize the one thing he was wrong about is to try to paint all these digital assets, just like Brad Garlinghouse said when Brad Garlinghouse was talking. Actually, the ad that Ripple took out, Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson took out in the Wall Street Journal, said to the Fed, don't paint, or to Congress, don't paint all of this with a broad brush. I think that Peter Schiff was guilty of the same thing at the beginning. I think Peter Schiff is coming around to the same thing. You can't paint digital assets with a broad brush. Once you realize and you know what XRP is, and this is what should be very exciting to you, for those of you sitting out there who have been listening to me for months, or not listening to me, listening to other XRP people or whatever, for those of you that found this and you've got things parked safely, hopefully on a Ledger Nano S, which you can get in the description of all of my videos if you don't have one. This should really excite you, because I believe that not just Peter Schiff, but I believe the world, as you and I sit here as those lucky early investors, I believe that the world is about to turn to XRP, and everybody's going to figure it out. And when they do, guess what happens to your pocketbook and mine? Okay, and then there's this. This was from Lionel at Lionel 462-94550. He says, look at Crypto Van Rand and Anthony Pompliano panic when Peter describes XRP. Because that, in this debate, that would literally be, and Peter Schiff, if you are hearing my voice, if you want to hit a grand slam in any debate that you're having, lob XRP and Ripple out in the middle of that stage the next time. I don't care who you're debating. I don't care if you're debating Mark Yesko, Anthony Pompliano, Tim Draper, whoever it is, or the guy from Galaxy Digital, Mike Novogratz. I don't care who it is. Throw that bomb out on stage. Barry Silbert, throw that bomb out on stage, because they all know that XRP is the greatest digital asset ever created. Every single one of them, to a man, knows. Bitcoin's just their first investment. They see that, in my opinion, as the first wave. If I was a betting man, that's how they all view Bitcoin, as the first wave. And don't think that they're not owners in XRP too. I'll bet every single one of them is. But he says, watch them panic. And you should go and watch this. This is from Wolfman Knows. When he says this, watch the look right in here. he starts, everything he's saying screams XRP. Now, he doesn't say it just like nobody says it. But watch, right in here, watch the look on Crypto Man Rand's face, Rand Nooner's face, right here. Look, he puts his hand out there almost to say, wait a minute, don't say it, don't say it. And they're both like in shock. And now he's got this uncomfortable smile on his face because they know he's making like a real valid point. And they're scared to death that there's about to be an XRP grenade thrown into the middle of that table. For that reason, I will put XRP on this table for my thumbnail for this video. And then I got this from Mr. B at XRP Mr. sent me this. This was a tweet from this guy at DAM00R. I think those are zeros. This is from a Politico article. It's a letter that was mentioned, and he was smart enough to grab the link to that letter. Here's the link. It's up to where you can find it on Politico. The letter is basically, just from what I can tell, it's a letter, and it's based on, let me see here. Yeah, this is the actual letter, and it's from, I got the article from Brian Calhoun at Ice Cream Man 2011, and this is the Politico article. Jerome Powell, Fed seriously considering faster payment system, and this is the letter that was, and it's apparently a letter to a senator from Jerome Powell in response to a bunch of questions that this senator has asked them about the Federal Reserve's role in faster payments. One thing I found interesting, it shows the questions and then he answers the questions. But in the second one, and this seems to be a real sticking point right now. As noted above, this is their second question. The Federal Reserve's policy statement. The Federal Reserve in the payment system requires the Federal Reserve to satisfy 3 conditions before considering a new service. Among these is the finding that the private sector cannot be expected to provide such service with reasonable effectiveness, scope, and equity. Has the Federal Reserve made this finding? And if so, on what empirical grounds was it made? Now, this is the second or third time that I have heard this reference to, like, there's a big issue with whether the Federal Reserve will use private industry, or I guess set this up using the existing banking system. Now, this screams to me. Now, I don't quote me on this, but this is what my gut's telling me. This screams to me that the JP Morgans and the Citibanks of the world want to control this faster payments thing when it actually happens. That's what my initial gut instinct is. And then I saw this, and I'll show you this. This kind of reinforces. And this also came from Brian Callahan. This was a response to a tweet that somebody had, but this is an ad that was in Politico. Dear Congress, stop mega bank monopoly. Contact the Federal Reserve today to ensure their involvement in real-time payments, access, and choice are critical to Main Street. The Fed is uniquely positioned to provide real-time payments access for community banks and the customers they serve. Now, this and it says Independent Community Bankers of America. So I guess I was wrong. What it looks like, maybe it looks like they're trying to get these smaller community banks who would probably be more aligned with Ripple. Maybe what's happening is they're banding together to keep this from being done with the JP Morgans and the Citibanks, because that's been the problem with Swift all along, is that the advantage goes to the bigger banks. That's what's going on here. And so it looks like there's an actual push for this to be done, and I would imagine that these guys are on the side of Ripple. I think that that's definitely what's going on. Okay, let me make sure. Let's see, I can handle that later. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe and hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that the faster payments system that is about to be addressed by the Fed. I mean, they make no bones about the fact that they're about to address this. And I've talked to a lot of the smartest people I know in the XRP community, and there is one thing that everybody seems to have a consensus on, and that is that everything you hear, everything you see is just dancing around Ripple and XRP in everything that's being said right now. Very exciting times, very, very fascinating times we're living in. Thank you for listening.